After Jesse discovered Rooney's same-sex attraction, his relationship with Jesse was taken to the next level. Bit by bit, Jesse began edging him closer and closer.
Oh, come on. You had to have chosen that line of words intentionally. Edging closer and closer and more edging and swelling. Couple quick notes. I'm sure many of you know of Jesse Lee Peterson. I'm sure many of you say the memes, amazing, stuff like that. You've seen the multiple debates with Jesse Lee Peterson. You may have even seen my debate with Jesse Lee Peterson, or you've seen him debate Destiny and saying that's a girl's name. You've seen him debate Hassan Piker, David Pakman. The list goes on and on and on. And obviously, he's pretty well known for being very, very conservative. Recently, he was on a show with John Doyle talking about white supremacy being a good thing because white people have created all the wonderful things in the world, stuff like that. We're going to watch this now expose by these horrifying people, and I want to point out a couple things before we begin. The first one being is please try to avoid the use of calling him a race traitor in the form of this is an Uncle Ruckus or other stuff in the chat coming from non-black people. That is kind of yikesy, so avoid that, while at the same time this isn't something that I'm watching because I have a deep vested interest in whatever church militant fucking does. This site is outrageous. I mean, shout out to Hades Vadim for showing me this video link existing, and he said that I had to watch it on stream, so we're gonna see what exactly is exposed in this. But I do want to point out that this website, like, I watched one video, and in the first like minute of the video, it immediately starts being like, this homosexual promotes the global homo agenda by homosexualizing children, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's how hardcore the corner of the internet we now find ourselves in right now, okay? So that's what church militant is. It's in the name. You get what you pay for with this one. But anyways, you can see right at the latest, conservative icon accused. And why I have an interest in this is the hypocrisy. JLP is a massive homophobe of the highest order, is constantly saying the most horrifying homophobic comments, that it's sinful, that it's disgraceful, that it's disgusting, that they, like, you know, men have sex with each other's butts and other shit like that. He's also an incredibly aggressive transphobe as well. I mean, the man is, you know, a far right popular conservative figure, and I think shouldn't really serve any purpose other than trolling him if you want to go on his shows and do that kind of stuff. If you forgot the lore, JLP on his Twitter account, I believe, liked a photo that contained a homosexual act being performed. And it was, you know, of the hardcore variety. It wasn't softcore porn, it was hardcore porn. And a lot of people were very confused by that. I don't think he really addressed it much, if anything, or properly. But it was weird, you know. The church militant has a weird obsession about not eating fish on Fridays. Well, that's a biblical thing, isn't it? Anyways, let's see what the church militant has to say. This is 100% throw it into the category of let them fight.
You may talk about the men of Gideon, talk about the men of Saul. Don't like the good old Joshua way. That's no
We're in a scary corner of the internet, friends.
I've changed. And I don't have any skeleton in my closet.
You're saying
from
that
the
you're
point
100%
that I changed.
saint now?
I'm not saying that I'm a saint, but I don't do those things.
In the early 1990s, Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson began his ministry as a student of Roy Masters, a British-born talk radio personality and hypnotist. Peterson and Masters promoted a similar system of meditation and theology, a system that includes rejecting the Holy Trinity and our blessed Lord's divinity.
You blame things that you do for somebody else. No.
But thanks to the feckless and spiritually
This is already so weird. Because, like, you can tell there's a lot of money behind this website, and so the production value is, like, it's very competent, but at the same time, it's like, where are we going with all this?
bishops, Jesse's theological errors didn't keep him from gaining tens of thousands of Catholic and patriotic followers. Jesse's draw for conservatives was his commentary against the Marxist group Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter, radical so-called social justice warriors. They were chanting, what do we want? Dead cops. When do we want it now? Pigs in the blanket, fry them like bacon. And people went out and started killing cops and everything.
Is this the BreadTube? No, this is the exact polar opposite of BreadTube. This is a website that promotes Christian militantism.
Back up!
Exploiting many angry American men's
Fascists.
desires for a stable family life, Jesse would directly call out feminists for their role in destroying the family as well.
Sexism is a made-up lie, and it's been made up by women who hate men, who hate the family, who hate the unborn child.
The 73-year-old even visited the church militant studio in March.
I think this whole beginning is to show here's why you may think he's awesome. All that we're showing you right now is super based. We're on board with all of this. This is great stuff.
When senior executive producer Michael Voris answered his questions about Catholicism.
Did Jesus just rise from the dead in spirit,
But that's
or
what
did his body come out also?
He was, maybe his body count, I don't know. But I know.
Well, that's a big deal.
He rose in the spirit. That's what.
No, he rose
let me
in
tell
the
you
body.
Why I want to make that.
But he rose in the body. You can't say he didn't walk out of the tomb on Sunday.
And for what we knew at the time, Jesse was an ardent opponent of homosexuality in and outside the church, and presented himself as such.
The spirit of homosexuality is of their father, the devil. It's not them, the person. It's the spirit that made a home in them. And it came from them overreacting to some sort of a situation in life, whether it's from someone messing with them when they were kids, or overreacting to an angry mother, because you become like what you hate.
But shortly after the March interview, friends of his came to us with a different story. These stories first came to light when Jesse's former co-host and alleged decade-long gay lover exposed him. 61-year-old Patrick Rooney has known Jesse for nearly 30 years, dating back to roughly 1992.
Everybody know Patrick Rooney, one of the smartest white men on this side of heaven.
The two were so close that Jesse was the minister at his wedding and the pastor at his baptism, long before Rooney claimed any homosexual activities began.
Right around that
purported victim number one. If they were in a consensual relationship, he's not a victim. Oh my god, this framing. It's really weird to see such a slickly produced, far-right documentary.
At the time, I also had started a TV show. I was doing a public access TV show in LA, and with a friend of mine who had gotten off heroin and wanted to, he asked me to be involved in the show to help other people get off drugs and things like that. So we started the show, and one of our first guests was Jesse and another gentleman from Bond. So we did a couple shows with them. And from that time forward, right after the show happened, Jesse and I talked in the green room, backstage. And right off the bat, he started asking me stuff. Jesse's very forward with his questioning and things like that. So he actually asked me right after that show, are you gay?
Rooney's characterization shows that Jesse allegedly used similar grooming tactics as other homo predators.
Oh my god. Oh my god. It just rolls off their tongues. It's so normal. That's so fucked up. What a fucked up website.
Like Saginaw priest Father Robert DeLand, who asked similar questions when preying on a young man.
I mean, I'm sure you probably all know, based on both having watched the show before, maybe the flags in the background or something like that. I got absolutely no problem in the world with Jesse Lee Peterson being gay. I say, why not go out, stop being a bigot, stop, vilifying gay people all the time, and go live your best life, You don't have to be unhappy.
In 2017.
To discover that you have some gay tendencies is a fine thing, because then you don't have to be so confused.
Right.
Do you feel less confused?
Do you? Yeah.
Wait, is that why they said the first person claiming that he had a relationship with Jesse is a victim? Because he was a grown-ass adult, guys.
After Jesse discovered Rooney's same-sex attraction, his relationship with Jesse was taken to the next level.
Bit by bit, Jesse began edging him closer and closer.
Oh, come on. You had to have chosen that line of words intentionally. Edging closer and closer and more edging and swelling
to sin.
Once he moved up there to do the show, we stayed in the same house. Jesse would kind of do some things, kind of horseplay and stuff like that with me. And at times he would do stuff where he would like grab me and then we'd kind of wrestle around a little bit. And then I'd feel his, private parts against me. And he did that more than once. So it wasn't like an accidental thing. He would kind of do it. And then I even mentioned it like, what's that or whatever. And he would kind of play around and joke about it.
Fast forward to 2005, and Jesse was ready to make his final move.
We did a conference with them called Moral Reconstruction, which is kind of ironic now that we're sitting here talking about something else. It's called Moral Reconstruction. We did that. That first conference was, I believe, in 2005. And we did a follow-up conference in 2006 with them as well. And I went with Jesse to Washington, D.C. For this conference. I was a fundraiser at the time. And so we did fundraising, and I was part of the conference. While we were at the conference, we stayed in Virginia, near D.C. So we were sitting on the bed together, and all of a sudden he turned to me and just looked at me, and he said, "What do you want to do? What do you want to do?" And he said it in a tone that was really insistent. And I'd never seen this tone from him before. It was like kind of scary. It kind of scared me. Like what? What do you want to do?
Like even this music
I knew
choice.
what he meant, and then I told him, well, okay. And at first I'm scared, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm playing along here. It kind of threw me off my game, I guess, in a way. I think later I realized that's kind of something that people do sometimes. It's like the devil works in a certain way by intimidating you, and it throws you off your normal game. And so he said, "What do you want to do?" And he was like, "Okay, I'm scared." And then I told him what I want to do. I mentioned sex acts,
I wonder who JLP pissed off. Normally these types of revelations come out when you're not being a team player. Yeah, that is true. I mean, these people seem so extreme. Like this entire website / production crew / host seems so extreme that I think that doesn't really matter to them. I think that even if there is a whiff of potential homosexuality, then that is something that must be destroyed, for it is truly sinful.
He knew about that. I had already talked to him about that I was interested in. And next thing you know, he's ripping his clothes off and coming at me, basically. And I did the same, took my clothes off. And next thing you know, we're fully at it, having, not getting detail here, but basically full-on sexual acts.
Rooney's recollections show that Jesse mirrored DeLand's sexual advances almost identically.
I love you. Love you too. I know.
Yeah, see, like it seems like them, because they're trying to tie it into this other story that has actually absolutely no connection outside of them trying to show you that there is an insidious homosexual agenda in which these homosexuals are trying to prey upon good Christian men. That's basically the narrative they're trying to spin here. But yeah, I think that alone, if they just find out that someone happens, like, by the way, I found out this is the same organization that Milo Yiannopoulos works for now. This is this church militant. These are the ones that put together the stuff where he got to say how he, cast away his sodomy stone and is a reformed straight dude now and all that kind of stuff, and his never-ending quest to regain relevance.
I don't know. No, what are we going to do, really?
Rooney's description shows that after their sexual encounter, Jesse began intertwining his private homosexualism with blasphemy.
After we had just done this first sexual act, and then ever since then, he told me that once we did this, I was born again. This sounds crazy, but this is the absolute truth. He said that I was born again. He would remind me of that through the years.
Following being born again, Rooney contends that his sodomitic relationship with Peterson...
Sodomitic. The relationship was based almost entirely on sodomy. Sodomy was the foundation of the relationship. It was there was love and other things, certainly, but it was all built, again, on a house, and the template and the format was sodomy. Yes, definitely. I mean, this stuff, I always file it under it's so sad. It's so sad. This isn't as bad maybe as Dave Rubin, because Dave Rubin at least gets to be openly gay, even though he's in circles that probably despise a lot of aspects about his life. But like, he's kind of in the log cabin Republican section of the right, where it's like, yes, no, we now tolerate gays being amongst us. We just don't ever want to hear or see you ever having any kind of physical attraction or relationships with each other. We don't want to see you kiss publicly, because again, that is depraved. If you want to keep that within the privacy of your own bedroom, that's fine, but I also don't want to ever have to think about what you do in the privacy of your own bedroom, because it is, again, disgusting to me. And no, I will not ever attend your gay wedding, and I will not bake you a gay wedding cake. And I am very utterly disgusted by the fact that you have had children and use a surrogate to do so. Yeah, I want to now compare you to chattel slavery for doing that. Like, that's kind of the area that Dave Rubin operates inside. And in this section, it's kind of like, if it is true, because these are, again, allegations, it would be something that I file under just really deeply sad, because ultimately you've transformed something that is a part of you, is a part of who you are, and rather than live openly or happily within it, you spend your life vilifying other people who were born the same way. Like, you turn the whole thing around and then make a career out of that to make money.
Went on for roughly 10 years, until Rooney decided to come clean to his wife and son.
My son was really angry. My son was mostly angry at me because he had Jesse on such a pedestal. My son had Jesse on such a pedestal, he literally thought Jesse could walk on water. We got on a phone call, we talked to Jesse, and as soon as we brought it up with my son on the phone call, Jesse denied it. And I said, Jesse, you're a liar. You're lying. You know you're lying. And he finally came out and admitted to my son that he did that.
Rooney later moved to Florida to get away from Jesse. But according to Rooney, Jesse couldn't handle the relationship ending, offering him several bribes to get him back to LA. It's typical for homo predators to try and cover their tracks using a cornucopia of
I keep laughing at this fascist because well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to, but B, how he takes this shit so seriously. Like, he seems like a cartoon character of what a fascist should be, you know? Because, again, the homo agenda is using homosexuality as a device for grooming. It wasn't long before these homo predators were going global with their homoing. The gay will get you if you are not resilient. We are all resilient, though.
Strategies to shut people up.
Homo Predator 2 is good.
In the case of Father DeLand, it was now deceased Saginaw Bishop Joseph Sistone, who remained silent on DeLand's abuse for years. While serving as an auxiliary bishop in Philadelphia in 1994, Sistone allegedly watched as documents containing names of up to 64 suspected sex abusers were shredded, earning him the nickname Bishop Shredder among the U.S. bishops. According to Rooney, for Jesse and those loyal to him, the strategy was to bully and silence all victims and witnesses speaking up.
Jesse did throw me under the bus, basically, and other people that did anything like that, and still does. If anybody comes up with it, they'll keep anybody off the air.
You're talking about other victims?
Well, yeah, other victims. And he'll make sure that if anybody talks about these things, calls up his show or does anything like that, they were not going to get through on his show.
Patrick explained how easy it was for Jesse to discredit victims, given Bond's history of seeking out troubled young men.
A lot of the people that Jesse brings around him are troubled young men, right? Have drug problems, right? Some of them been in jail. So it's pretty easy to discredit a guy who's been on drugs, maybe in jail or something like that. It's pretty rotten thing to do.
Beginning last November, Rooney began writing a collection of blog posts hinting at Jesse's predation, leading him to a shocking discovery.
After I published these articles, I found out from a young man, a very credible young man, that Jesse was fooling around with this young man.
That young man was 30-year-old Samuel Arambula, a more recent member of Bond and Jesse's latest known purported victim.
I started going to Bond around May 2020. This was during the coronavirus lockdowns, everything. As soon as they opened back, they were doing live broadcasted, no in-person church for like 2 months or 2 weeks or something like that. But as soon as it opened up, I went. That was May 2020. Jesse, what he likes to do in the church is he goes around first-timers. he goes around first timers and says, introduce yourself, what's your name? You know, how'd you find us? Where are you here? The first thing
Yeah, I mean, if they're trying to paint a 30-year-old as being a, quote, young man to add to the grooming accusations against him, it's pretty wild. I'm guessing the story is probably going to say something that, you know, this all took place like 10 years ago. But again, a 20-year-old...
I said, my name is Samuel, and I'm here because, you know, you helped me a lot. I went and forgave my mom. I went and forgave my dad. I had a lot of anger, and I just dropped that, and I feel way better now. I'm really, you know, growing, and I want to thank you for it.
Among him are 3 other alleged witnesses and victims who also chose to tell their stories. Samuel began his relationship with Jesse.
This is out of control. It happened in 2020. Oh, well, never mind. So he was 28. The young man in question was 28 years old at the time.
Professionally, washing cars for him and doing other cleaning work at what they call the bond house.
Oh yeah, to answer the questions that are going on in the chat, if Jesse was using his position of power, both either as a reverend or as a celebrity, to be able to coerce people into having sex with him, yes, that is an abuse of your situation. And then, yes, there's an argument there. What they're trying to paint it as is that he is a groomer, pedophile, who is trying to lure young men because that's what all gay people do, and that's the angle that they're going with.
The bond house is where Jesse and several of his male staff currently live. And when Samuel began opening up to Jesse about his past, things got personal.
I was molested as a boy, so I was like, Jesse, what do I do? Like, this is weighing heavy on me. What should I do? He said, forgive him, it's in the past. Our relationship progressed slowly closer and closer. I didn't suspect anything weird.
What is this music?
There were certain times where he began hugging me where I was like, whoa,
the fuck is this music right now?
What was this? But I was like, this is, I get, he would just tell me like, you know, I just love you. So I'm like, okay, I get you, you know, I love you too.
But, much like with Patrick Rooney, Samuel states things went from casually close
to mortally
sinful.
I agree. Every part of this is so unbelievably cursed. What a weird corner of the internet.
So Friday afternoon, evening, I go to Jesse's house and I am sitting in his couch, relaxing, you know, I'm kind of avoiding the LA traffic at the...
Like, for as slick as this whole thing is produced, right? Like, you know, the Christian far right have a lot of money. You would expect them to be, like, putting scary music over this part. Like, that's what I would assume, just from, like, a directorial stance. You know, it would be, like, ominous, like... Right? And make the whole thing seem like, holy fuck, what the fuck?
Peak hour. So it's a good deal, and I get to stay somewhere with someone that I respect, friend. So then, by this point, we're already real comfortable with, like, hugging and all that stuff, you know, just hugging for long periods of time. I thought nothing weird of it. I guess my guard had already been let down completely.
Maybe porn music scares Christians. Yeah, that's probably it. This is the most horrifying sound they could possibly hear. Oh God, oh no.
So I'm sitting on this couch, he kneels down in front of me, and then he wraps himself around his arms around my waist, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird, but I'm like, Jesse, why are you doing that?
What is with the segment too? It's like, and then what did he do? And then what happened? It's like, well, I don't really want to go into detail. I'll just describe this as a sexual act was performed. It's like, no, go into detail. We need to know every part of this.
He's like, I just love you so much, and I'm like, okay, I guess. I was just like this. So then he starts rubbing my thighs, and I'm like, okay, what is he doing? Like, it's kind of crazy. And then he starts rubbing my genital area, and I'm like, what's happening right now? And then
like, the reason this is so cursed is this sounds, to be honest, if it is true, like a very traumatizing story of someone abusing someone else, and the music in the background is so unbelievably inappropriate. It's inappropriate on so many levels. It also, like, it's a very strange tonal shift to have. It creates a weird mood, and also, like, you clearly are trying to, like, set this whole thing up as a hit piece, and so you're sitting there the whole time just, like, taking this incredibly seriously.
And then he pulls down my pants, and then I'm like, I'm shocked. I'm not saying anything. I'm like, my face is like, whoa, what the hell is happening right now?
From there, Jesse instructed Samuel to go into his so-called meditation, called the silent prayer.
And he's like, doubt all thoughts are lies. Everything Satan is telling you is a lie. And I'm like, okay. But inside it's telling me, hey, this is not good. what are you doing? What are you allowing him to do?
Samuel describes Jesse abusing the supposed meditation.
Yeah, I mean, that is like a first-hand account of abuse and assault. Probably you could have just had nothing as music in the background if you were going to go that route. You could just let him tell his story. It didn't need whatever the fuck is going on. Why are you in front of a Bond building, by the way? Like, why is this the background every single shot that you are featured in? Is this like a side gig?
Trying to convince Samuel to ignore the traumatic sexual experience occurring.
It went on for a few minutes. He would get up, walk away. I could hear him, I couldn't see him. Get up, he would get up, walk away. I could hear him get up, walk away, touch it, get up, walk away, touch it. And I was like, what the hell's going on? So then I opened my eyes, and then I'm like, what just happened?
Another alleged victim was Trayvon Chapman, who in 2015 told his friend, now 43-year-old Armand Martikian, that Jesse molested him.
Well, the first thing came out of his mouth, that Jesse's homosexual. And I say, you can't be saying this, like he's all against it. He's a, straight conservative man who, this is like, what you're saying is bizarre, doesn't make sense. But at the same time, it kind of struck me as a truth. What this guy was saying, he was explaining the incidents, like certain acts that they would do. They had some nicknames. Jesse had nicknames for it, say, instead of telling what the act is, he named it oral massage, according to Trayvon.
Armand tried to tell Jesse what Trayvon said, and he just dismissed it.
Yeah, like if we cut through all the fucking Christian nationalism weird ass shit of this video, there is a story here where there's multiple accounts from multiple people alleging, sexual abuse at the hands of someone who was in a position of power, who they did trust as a confidant. Like that in and of itself could be the story. Obviously, they've got an agenda to push here, which is also to tell this story, do the expose, and also demonstrate how, gays equal groomers, gays equal pedophiles, even though the victims in this story, the first one being someone who entered what sounded like a consensual relationship with him. These ones, I could definitely say that the victim label isn't inappropriate, but yeah, to frame the whole thing as if young men getting sexually abused in this case, the word young is in there. So, I mean, if it's a 28-year-old who was taken advantage of by Jesse, it clearly shows his, again, predatory behavior in regards to his grooming, right? You see what they're trying to do as well. Also, the weird-ass fucking cursed music.
I went to Jesse. I said, Jesse, I bumped into Trayvon, and he was talking bad things about you. The moment I said that, his first response was, oh, he's on drugs. When he said he's on drugs, shivers went down my spine, like, oh.
It's an abuse of power, like Clinton. Well, yeah, but in this case, it seems like the testimony of that one person shows that it was not consensual. He didn't want to do that, so that is just straight-up sexual assault.
Oh, aren't you going to ask what he said about me?
Trayvon has since disappeared. None of the men have any idea of his current whereabouts, though they assume he's still somewhere in LA. After this encounter, Armand...
Like, this is legit sexual abuse, and it feels like they are making fun of it rather than trying to help people or make it stop. Yeah, I know. Well, this entire thing, the whole point of it is just to vilify gay people.
Armand began questioning his own relationship with Jesse.
And then I had a flashback. Back in the day, it was such an insignificant thing that it never stayed in my memory, but for some reason, the flashback had, when I was in a private counseling, he kind of gestured me, let me see down there, pointing at my, referring to my, down there as in my privates. Not knowing what was about, I'm at very late teens at that moment, like kind of got tricked into it, pulled my pants forward where he kind of looked at it, but at the same time, I'm thinking like, maybe he's trying to see if I'm shy, he's trying to help me overcome shyness, because I was a little shy, I didn't know what to make of it. I remember saying, if somebody sees us from outside, they're gonna think we're gay, I said. Later, I looked back, thought that the fact that I said, if somebody sees us, they're gonna think we're gay, he kind of probably thought that, okay, he's too aware, I'm not gonna advance any longer.
Former Bond House manager, 50-year-old Robert Santner.
Oh, okay. Is that why the Bond House is the one in the background? Is everything coming together now?
Alleges he witnessed similarly strange behavior in 2021 between Jesse and current Bond producer James Hake.
What I witnessed, him and Jesse were hugging each other intensely, rubbing each other's shoulder down stuff, and he came to a point where I actually saw him kissing him on the cheek. Kissing him on the cheek and stuff, on the hallway, and talking all kinds. I can't remember what the words he said, but there were a lot of giggling.
Giggling, hugging, a peck on the cheek, what?
In the hallway, in his James' room, and then there was even one time that just really shocked the living hell out of me, is I went to the laundry room stuff, after I took the laundry out, and then when I got out, and there was a door open in Jesse's room, and there I saw Jesse was sitting in the bed, and while James Hake was wrapped around bed sheets, completely around like a burrito with his head sticking out. And Jesse was like embracing him and hugging him and stuff, and then kissing him on the forehead. And I was like, hey, are you all right?
Hake, to this day, is an ardent defender of Jesse and his ministry, essentially helping him ostracize all the men accusing Jesse of homopredation. Santner also described an incident where Jesse attempted grooming him to see if he was a homosexual.
Like there was one night, okay, I was all...
Okay, well, first off, I don't even know where to start with this one. This thing is breaking my brain. Okay, again, point out the fact that they're trying to use the term grooming specifically to talk about homosexuality. Someone is trying to enter a homosexual relationship. If Jesse is in the middle of a relationship with his co-host, if it is a consensual relationship, I don't think there's really a problem there. You know, if he wants to wrap him up like a burrito and then kiss him on the forehead or whatever is being described there, I don't see that as a massively huge problem, but I guess they're trying to state that because it is homosexual nature, that it is evil at its core or something like that. I mean, this is all circumstantial too. There's still no direct evidence that Jesse is in a relationship with his co-host.
All by myself. It was like late at night after I came home from work. I was in the kitchen, you know, doing my own thing and stuff.
Is Hake his employee? That's a good question.
Jesse appeared on the doorway, leaning against the doorway with his hand underneath his underpants. And he was like slowly massaging himself and was giving me a look, and I turned around and says, "What the heck are you doing?" And he was like giving me a smile and giggle and stuff, and then walked away.
Wait, that's the story that they prefaced it by saying this was him getting groomed? He's like, I have my own grooming story. Don't get me wrong, that's very highly inappropriate behavior.
Another witness is Martin Francis, who's largely been leading the charge against Jesse's purported homopredation. He describes himself as one of Jesse's best friends. You may recognize Francis from a video with Jesse arguing with a Univision reporter at a Prop 187 rally in Los Angeles in 1996, a rally opposing the flood of illegal aliens entering the state.
Are you all right?
Are you okay? Oh, I'm feeling better than ever.
Are you all right?
Yes, I'm all right.
Are you racist?
Am I what?
What are you think of these people now? Why? Why you stay
You
here?
said, are you racist? Am I racist?
Yeah.
No, I'm not a racist. Why do you ask that?
But since learning of Jesse's dark secret, Francis has led several protests against Petersons' homosexuality outside of the Bond studio. Jesse was confronted by him several times
Jesse
this
Lee
year.
Peterson is gay. Amazing.
Thank you, Jesse Lee Peter Memes, for the $10.
And refused to address any of the accusations of him preying on young men at Bond. Here's a video of Francis from March, facing off with him at what appears to be the post office across the street from the Bond studio.
Oh, that's nice. He wants me to tell them how I was sleeping with my brother's wife. That's fine. But Jesse, why will you not speak on your homosexual behaviors?
Francis confronted him again in the back of the building.
Yeah, it seems like they're completely revolted by anything gay, so everything that is even remotely, like, it's fucked up, because they've combined stories that sound like a legitimate testimony by someone, like, saying that they were sexually assaulted by Jesse. So that story in and of itself, that is a very serious thing that should be taken, like, you know, with with all the seriousness that it requires. Don't put weird 70s porn music in the background. And then it cuts to like, and here's the next victim story. And it's like, yeah, I think his co-host was wrapped up like a burrito and getting a kiss on the forehead. Or I saw them hugging quite a bit and giggling when they would hug each other, you know, and stuff like that. And it's just like, what the fuck is wrong with the hugging or the other stuff? And it's like, it's clearly anything remotely gay is like, you know, just deplorable and disgusting to them. And the blending of all this together, this is like truly a bizarre spectacle.
With Armand Martikian in February, capturing it
The Bond B-roll in the background is footage of a studio. Okay. All right.
All on video.
Jesse Peterson, I've known you for 25 years personally. Will you come? See, he's not coming over to me. Will you at least stand there where you feel safe and talk to me? Stand up on your porch with the door open and shout out to me. Why won't you talk to me? I've known you for 25 years. I've accused you of heinous things, and you will not talk to me. You coward.
Francis admits there were also a few clues that should have revealed Jesse was a homosexual, long before he ever found out.
He wanted to see if I was willing to have a homosexual relationship with him, of course, because that's what he was all about. He was about putting out feelers there and seeing who he could have sex with. And it didn't work with me because I had not been molested as a boy. And so eventually I told him, look, Jesse, I'm just an angry guy and I don't like these long hugs and all this stuff we're doing, you know, at night.
And did he stop?
Where he would come into my bed and just lay with me, you know.
He would come into your bed and just lay with you?
Yes. And at one time even like put his hand underneath my underwear to go toward my genitals, right? He never got there because he could see I wasn't getting excited. So he never got there. He just like at the edge, you know, because you got to invite the vampire in, is what they say in the vampire movies. And it's sort of true with even psychic vampires like Jesse. And so he was, he would do those kind of tricks or put his hand around my back and up on my chest and be hugging and all that kind of stuff just to see if maybe I could get, and asking me if, how does it feel? And it feels good, right? And all that kind of stuff. And I would meekly answer, yeah, it feels good. But only because when you're under that kind of pressure, you just give the answer that he wants, but you're really like wanting to get the heck out of there. You're like ready to fly out of there like a bat out of hell.
Jesse appears to have used every dirty trick in the book to silence him, allegedly trying to have Francis arrested for violating an unserved restraining order.
I will go back to Phoenix and chill out with the relatives like I was doing before, and I'll be back on the 25th. Okay.
25th,
Fortunately
yeah.
for you, this is in a sealed envelope today. If it hadn't been,
Yes. Yes. If it was already served, you had already seen this, you would be going to jail.
Church militant asked every single victim and witness if they thought Jesse would continue sexually preying on men, and they all had the same answer.
Well, yeah.
I would say yes.
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind.
There's no doubt that there's current victims.
This goddamn editing. Yeah, I mean, if this is true, if these stories are true, and there seems to be a multitude of witnesses coming forward talking about this, one of them, you know, does have a long history with Jesse. If this whole thing turns out to be true, then yes, it seems like Jesse has been engaged for a while in predatory behavior, both abusing his position of power as a reverend with, you know, people who happen to be his clergy, as well as people who are in a, you know, perhaps very vulnerable situation, people who happen to be, you know, drug addicts, who happen to be victims of abuse themselves. And in certain cases, he is sexually assaulting them, according to the allegations. And that's all very serious and condemnable behavior across the board. What this has to do with the globo homo agenda that this documentary seems to want to really push is absolutely nothing, because it doesn't exist, and it's just homophobia rebranded for internet weirdos. But yeah, the rest of the stuff is obviously pretty serious.
I think for sure.
Jesse allegedly...
Yeah, I see a lot of people in the chat talking about how, you know, they've lived their lives gay and repressed, and so this is really hard to hear, or this is really sad and stuff like that. I agree. I mean, this is honestly, you know, all jokes aside from this weird ass video, the serious takeaway is that repression, especially like Christian fundamentalist repression, is deeply, deeply unhealthy in every way. Even the repression of, straight people in Catholicism, you cannot have sex before marriage and all this kind of stuff. Look at the overwhelming amount of sexual abuse that happens at the hands of the church. Look at, the case of people who are forcibly closeted because they think either A, it could be one of two things. You think that you are either, sinful or something like that, or B, that is just part of the grift and you just want to maintain, this idea of being, a heterosexual pastor because that's what plays well to your hyper-conservative community. If there wasn't all the stories of sexual assault and this entire thing was just a story of Jesse being in a relationship with his co-host and wrapping him up like a burrito, I would be like, this actually is kind of just an adorable story. But I also don't know if his co-host is his employee. I also don't know if his co-host, is in a position to have a secret relationship with Jesse Lee Peterson at the end of the day. But yeah, that's as close as I can do to a summary of this weird ass saga.
Accuses these men of harassment. But some members...
It's the hypocrisy for me, those who actively preach hate and hide it in their own self away. Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, Jesse has spent a career vilifying gay people and making their lives worse and harder.
Members of his own congregation disagree, like former Bond House tenant Fabian Asensio.
Harassing is just an excuse for, trying to shut people down. Bond has been a nonprofit church for all these years. He's lied and collected a lot of money from that church, from people saying that, he's been a hidden homosexual. There's plenty of evidence for it. There's no reason for us to make up anything. So for someone to be out there in the alley and talking and trying to wake up the employees and say, hey, what are you doing? Why are you still working for this liar? That's totally within our First Amendment rights.
Jim Valerio, longtime donor and friend of Jesse's, also pushed back at his defenders.
And for those of you people who are still supporting this so-called fraudulent, hypocritical, serial predator homosexual, you are going to pay a price for that. That is a stain on your soul when you meet your creator. Period. Cut.
This isn't even the first incident. Jesse was embroiled in a homosexual scandal in October 2020, after his Twitter account liked a gay pornography image. After the tweet was left up for hours, Jesse's account was immediately locked down and set to private.
See, that's the one I already knew about.
One caller on his daily JLP show broadcast tried asking him about it, and Peterson hung up on him.
Did you lock your Twitter account because you got caught liking a gay OnlyFans post?
Amazing. Do you think I handle my own Twitter stuff?
Oh, somebody else did it? How come you locked the account?
None of your business. What the? Are you a homosexual or something?
No, but it doesn't really
why
matter.
Why are you such a beta male? What, you know all that stuff that goes.
Ooh, playing the defense, eh? Offense is the best defense.
Oh, and it's not real. But you being a girl right now. What?
Not even a show? Oh, that's not even a show? Chris James? No way. Hell yeah.
What making you be a girl right now?
There's nothing wrong with it, Jesse.
There's nothing wrong with you being a girl?
They were in.
Goodbye.
On top of those we spoke to, there were several other anonymous alleged victims Church Militant was made aware of, who refused to speak with us per their devotion to Peterson and his so-called ministry. Jesse continues to deny his own actions to his congregants and his fans, shutting down any victims who stand in his way. For Church Militant Special Assignment, I'm Joseph Enders, Detroit.
He takes himself so seriously. Fucking fascist clown. Marketing. Okay, so I just want to see what the fallout was from this, apparently. He's facing backlash from fans after Church Militant aired their special assignment. It outlined how he had been predatory, blah, 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 pursued a 10-year-old homosexual relationship with him. Yeah, I think the takeaway from all this is, one, repression is fucked up, and it produces really fucked up results. Do not oppress people. Do not create a repressive society in which they deny their true selves. I think Jesse probably could have had a much happier life if he was just openly gay, if he is gay and these accusations are true, and been in a consensual relationship with someone who is not one of his devoted followers, who's not someone he hires, who's not someone who goes to his church, anything like that. To equate homosexuality with pedophilia is again an old trope that's been used by countless far-right figures all the way. You can look back to the Nazis. I mean, they were doing the same thing. They were vilifying trans and gay people and targeting them as being degenerate, and they were part of the people who were rounded up, and so that's nothing new. Again, if you look at the stats, the majority of people who commit child assault or who do grooming happen to be cis heterosexual men, but there's never really a big attack on those groups, because it would be absurd to say that all cishets are pedophiles, all cishets are groomers, even if like the vast majority of people who are child sexual assault perpetrators are cishets, because you can, in the other direction, you can see how ridiculous that is. But again, it's because they happen to be afraid of the gay and hate the gay, so there's that. Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form, available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback, because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Just, we are prepared to embark on a mighty jihad in your name. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your humble jester, attempting in vain to get you to laugh. To our valiant knights of the Round Table, Benji Arnie, Tech Tink, Scary Earth Human, Tony, DM Rivera, Resident Scarecrow, Sir Nickus, Mayred, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Brandon, Words Greenwood. It doesn't matter what I believe, it only matters what I can prove. Egbert Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Vivienne McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Coulter Smith, Jenna Tao, Quiet 185, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, The Tim Caucus, Multimondi, Trevbot, EXE, Brian Ephraim, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojack, Saren 42, Catherine, Ramon Acosta, Incosin, Agent NDN, Violent Orchard, Political Puppy, La Media Panza, Zach Christensen, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We raise our mugs and salute our brave heroes off to another glorious conquest.